Hi, it's Paige, and so my first prompt for the poetry discussion is the one about slam poetry. And the first little question from the prompt is, what did I think of slam poetry before this prompt and before watching the videos and reading everything, and did I think it was just a style? Before the prompt, I thought that slam poetry, I didn't think it was necessarily a style of poetry, honestly. Well, I guess I thought it was just snapping. For some reason, I always associated slam poetry with snapping and harshness and just really darting words and very passionate poets. Which it kind of is after reading the poetry, or watching the videos and reading the poetry, but it's a lot more sophisticated in actuality than what I thought it was originally. The next little part of the prompt, I think spoken word is, hold on, let me see this. I think that spoken word poetry is a very popular mode of expression and poetic expression, especially because I think it's very accessible and it's very easy to get into, in the sense of if you're just writing your thoughts down on a piece of paper, I think you can write it down on a piece of paper and write your poem, and then when you perform it, the emotions that you felt when you were writing, you're able to express them when you perform it, and you can be mad or you can be sad or happy, and it's more natural to do that, and it's not as scary to do that if it's actual emotions that you're performing. And you don't have to be talented in a sense to get into slam poetry, it's just your emotions, and some people are better at expressing those than others, and some obviously they're the poets, some are just amazing and can really connect with their audience, and people are better at that than others. But if you just write down your emotions, you can get into slam poetry if you're passionate about it and you just want to express yourself. And it's less skillful, I would say, seemingly, than writing music, trying to write a song, something like that, or drawing. You can do any of those things and not be super talented at them if you just want to express yourself. But seemingly from the outside, it's I don't know how to play guitar, but I can write down my emotions and I can be emotional about them. The role of the audience in slam poetry. So the role of the audience is very important in slam poetry. In chapter 8, Pelias and Schaefer talks about that the audience needs to be engaged, and if the audience is not engaged, then it's kind of pointless to have an audience. And I think that audience engagement is very important in slam poetry. Watching the videos, you can hear people cheering at certain parts or snapping or agreeing, murmuring whenever the poet says something that resonates with them. And also in chapter 8, they discuss how the audience is burdened with response, and that kind of ties into them being engaged. The audience, you just can't sit there always and never interact with the person performing the slam poetry. You need to snap or acknowledge it, or even if you don't like it, you'd be or something. You just have to be engaged. And on one of the websites provided in the discussion, they said that for slam poetry, the audience serves as the judge for the competitions, of a poetry slam. The audience is the judge. So right there, the audience is seemingly the most important part. When you're doing a competition, it's not the audience and then separate judges. It's just completely the audience is who you're performing to, because they're deciding if it's good or bad or whatnot, or if they resonate with it. So some of the poems that I watched that were my favorites are Jill Scott, Nothing is Nothing, and Icon in My Skin. These were my favorite ones. And Jill Scott in Nothing is Nothing used a simile, and she used like or as to compare herself to an empty condom wrapper that's just on the floor, because she said that she's like an empty condom wrapper because she is used and then discarded and is just left there. Like she's just discarded and her feelings are discarded by men like an empty condom wrapper. And then Icon in My Skin, I really like this one a lot because she critiques feminism and is critiquing like fake activism and like performative activism, because she's just saying how feminists love to like say your skin is beautiful, whatever, like you don't need makeup, and then as soon as she doesn't wear makeup, it's you should be more professional and wear makeup, or like your acne or something. So I just like that poem a lot. But Icon she personifies jokes as smudges. She says that these people's jokes are smudges on her collar because they stay with her and they like stain her day, because as soon as people see, she said, like her acne or her eczema, they will make a joke about it or a comment, and then those things stay with her throughout the rest of the day. Lastly, what I really liked about slam poetry was how passionate the poets were and how emotional they were. Jill Scott and Icon both used very touching subjects and things that were really close to them. They weren't superficial at all. They really went super in depth, and I like that a lot. And I think that it's really nice to see people like be so vulnerable up on stage and share their like things that are deep inside of them, because I think being vulnerable also connects to the audience, because people don't like to admit it, but we all connect to the things that those women were saying, and you can think like, oh, I thought I was the only one that thought that, but because they took the risk and they were able to put into words what they were feeling, you're able to connect with the audience, and it makes you feel less alone. And I think that in a broad sense, that's all art really is just trying to connect with humans, and art is just realizing that all humans go through similar experiences, whether we want to admit it or not. So, yeah.